The rain was falling so hard that the road ahead looked like a river of black glass, and Maya was already 20 minutes late for the most important meeting of her life. She had one hand tightly gripping the steering wheel and the other pressed against the phone in her lap, where a message from her bank kept flashing across the screen. Her savings were almost gone. Her landlord had given her 3 days to pay the overdue rent. Her small bakery had failed 6 months earlier, leaving her buried beneath debts she could barely understand anymore. She had promised herself that nothing, not rain, not traffic, not anyone, would stop her from reaching the interview that might finally give her a second chance. Then, just beyond a lonely stretch of highway, she saw a stranger standing beside a broken-down car, soaked to the skin and waving desperately for help. Maya slowed down. For a moment, she looked at him through the rain and thought about driving past. She had every reason to keep going. She was tired, frightened, and running out of options. But something inside her whispered that sometimes the moments we want to avoid are the very moments that change our lives forever. Before we continue, if you believe that kindness can give people a second chance and that one small act can change a life, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to Epic Story Hub. Your support helps us bring more stories about courage, kindness, and second chances. Maya pulled her small silver car onto the muddy shoulder and lowered the window. The stranger was an older man, perhaps in his late 60s, wearing a dark coat that was completely drenched. His car had stopped several feet behind him with its hazard lights blinking weakly through the rain. He looked exhausted, but there was something strangely calm in his eyes. Maya asked if he was all right, and he nodded, explaining that his tire had blown and his phone battery had died. He had been standing there for nearly an hour while cars passed without slowing. Maya glanced at the clock. Her interview was less than 30 minutes away, and the office was still 15 minutes from where she stood. Every second mattered. Yet she stepped out of her car anyway. She helped the man into the passenger seat, moved his wet coat away from the seat, and called roadside assistance from her phone. When the dispatcher said it could take nearly an hour because of the storm, Maya felt her stomach tighten. She knew she had probably lost her chance. Still, she looked at the old man and told him not to worry. His name was Elias Mercer. He kept apologizing for causing trouble, but Maya told him that nobody should be left alone on a dangerous road during a storm. They waited inside her car while the rain hammered against the roof. Elias noticed the folder resting on Maya's lap and asked if she was going somewhere important. At first she tried to avoid the question, but exhaustion made honesty easier than pretending. She told him about the interview, the failed bakery, the debt, and the apartment she might soon lose. She admitted that she had spent the last year feeling as though every door in her life had closed at the same time. Elias listened without interrupting. Then he quietly told her that losing something did not always mean she had failed. Sometimes, he said, life removes what we think we need so we can discover what we are actually capable of becoming. Maya almost laughed at the timing of his words. She had stopped to help a stranger, and now the stranger was speaking to her like someone who knew exactly how tired she was. Eventually, a tow truck arrived. Maya helped Elias gather his belongings, but as he stepped out of the car, he suddenly stopped. He looked back at her and asked if she would accept one piece of advice. Maya nodded. Elias told her never to measure the value of a day only by what she managed to accomplish. Some days, helping another person survive their worst hour was an accomplishment too. Maya thanked him, climbed back into her car, and drove toward the interview. But when she arrived, the office doors were already closed. She stood beneath the building's awning, staring at the rain running down the glass. The receptionist apologized and said the hiring manager had already left. Maya felt the last bit of hope inside her collapse. She sat in her car and cried, not because she had missed one interview, but because she was terrified that this was proof her life would never change. That evening, Maya returned to her tiny apartment and found an eviction notice taped to the door. She slowly removed it, folded it, and placed it on the kitchen counter. Her refrigerator was almost empty. Her bank balance was frightening. For the first time, she allowed herself to believe that maybe she had reached the end of the road. She went to bed without dinner, listening to the rain fade into silence. The next morning, she woke before sunrise, made a cup of weak coffee, and began searching for work again. She had barely finished the first email when her phone rang from an unknown number. She almost ignored it, but something made her answer. It was Elias. Maya was confused. She had never given him her number directly, but he explained that he had seen it on the roadside assistance receipt she had handed him. He apologized for calling unexpectedly and then asked if she could meet him for coffee. Maya hesitated. She had no money to waste on coffee, but Elias insisted. When they met at a quiet cafe later that morning, he was dressed neatly, carrying a leather folder. He thanked her again for stopping that night. Then he told her something that left Maya speechless. He had not been stranded because he was careless. He had been driving to meet someone who was supposed to help him decide what to do with a struggling community center he had founded years earlier. The center provided meals, job training, and temporary support for people who had lost everything. But the organization was in serious trouble. Funding had disappeared, staff members had left, and Elias had been considering closing it. Then he looked directly at Maya and asked about her bakery. Maya explained that she had loved baking since childhood. Her grandmother had taught her how to make bread, and eventually Maya had opened a small neighborhood bakery. For a while, it had been successful. But rising costs, unexpected repairs, and one bad business decision had destroyed it. She had blamed herself ever since. Elias listened carefully and then opened his folder. Inside were documents about the community center's kitchen. He said they needed someone who understood food, budgeting, customers, and people. He wanted Maya to help rebuild the center's kitchen program. It was not the high-paying corporate job she had been chasing, and the salary would be modest. But it was stable work, and there was something else. The center had an unused bakery space that could potentially become a small business again. Maya stared at the papers, afraid to believe what she was hearing. Elias told her that he was not offering her a favor. He was offering her an opportunity because he had watched how she treated a complete stranger when she had every reason to think only about herself. He believed someone who could stop on a dangerous road for another person might be exactly the kind of person needed to rebuild a place designed to help people who had been forgotten. Maya accepted. The following months were difficult. The community center was not a magical solution. The kitchen needed repairs. The accounts were a mess. Donations were inconsistent, and some days Maya wondered whether Elias had made a mistake trusting her. She worked from early morning until late afternoon, organizing supplies, preparing meals, training volunteers, and creating a plan for the bakery. Slowly, people began returning. Local families donated flour and vegetables. Retired workers volunteered their time. A mechanic repaired broken equipment without charging them. A young woman who had once received meals from the center began working beside Maya, learning how to bake. Then one morning, Maya opened the bakery doors for the first time. The first customer bought a loaf of bread. Then another. By noon, everything was gone. But the most meaningful part was not the money. It was watching people who had once felt invisible stand in line with smiles on their faces. Some bought food for their families. Others donated what little they could. The bakery became more than a business. It became a place where people could sit, breathe, and believe that tomorrow might be different. One afternoon, nearly a year after the rainy night that had changed everything, Maya noticed an elderly man standing outside the bakery window. She recognized him immediately. It was Elias. He smiled as she ran toward him. Maya hugged him and thanked him for changing her life. But Elias shook his head and told her that he had not changed her life. She had changed her own life the moment she chose kindness when kindness was inconvenient. Those words stayed with Maya. Years later, she would still tell people about that rainy afternoon. She would tell them that she had thought stopping for a stranger had cost her an opportunity. In reality, it had led her to the opportunity she had never known she needed. She had lost an interview, but she had found purpose. She had lost her bakery, but she had learned how to build something stronger. She had once believed that success meant getting everything she wanted. Now she understood that sometimes success meant becoming the person who could help someone else stand again. And perhaps that is why the smallest decisions can carry the greatest consequences. We rarely know what is waiting on the other side of a difficult choice. We may think we are losing time when we are actually gaining purpose. We may think we are helping a stranger when, in some mysterious way, that stranger is helping us find ourselves. If this story touched your heart, please don't just watch silently. Like the video, share it with someone who needs a little hope today, and subscribe to Epic Story Hub for more emotional stories about kindness, courage, and second chances. And before the story ends, I want you to do something special. In the comments, write, "Kindness changes everything," if you believe that one good decision can change someone's life. Your comment might be exactly the message another person needs to see today. Maya never forgot that stormy afternoon. Whenever heavy rain began falling, she remembered the stranger standing alone beside a broken car, the moment she almost drove past, and the quiet voice inside her that told her to stop. She had thought she was rescuing Elias that day, but years later she finally understood the truth. Sometimes, when you stop to help someone who has lost their way, you discover that you were lost too. And sometimes, the road to a better life begins with nothing more than slowing down, opening your heart, and choosing to care. Because you never know when one small act of kindness will become the moment that changes everything. The end.